This room is filled with leaders, and leaders in the making. And our different experiences, approaches, and styles of leadership are what make us unique and valuable. However, as leaders, we should make it a point to incorporate these three characteristics. Vision for the task at hand, to always improve, always grow, always push the boundaries of what we can accomplish. And integrity to the organization, being true and sincere to the goal, to the people we work with as well as to those we serve. We are a reflection of our mission statement. And above all, we as leaders should make it a point to develop strong interpersonal relationships with those around us. The way we treat those who support us, help us, and work with us is more crucial to reaching a goal than just about anything else. A leader that incorporates these characteristics into the way they lead will be able to accomplish great things and is overall a great leader. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Juan Rodriguez. I'm here to talk to you about leadership challenges and resilience today, in the past, etc. So leaders of today are not as capable of dealing with challenges or maintaining resilience as they used to be. We feel like today we've managed to solve everything that could possibly hinder us, and this kind of idea or thinking is kind of detrimental to our understanding that challenges are always going to crop up, and it's always useful to maintain resilience. We need leaders that can solve the major and minor issues and look at them as necessary, not as just obstacles standing in the way of a greater future. We must refine this ability. If it's not already inherent, we need to make sure it is inherent. Maybe learn it or teach it to kids in schools, make sure it's getting the message across that challenges are necessary to accomplish. Okay, so the idea of focusing on leadership challenges and resilience was refined by looking at scholars like Warren Bennis, Jeff Boss, and Mark Sanborn, as well as meeting with Dorothy Stoneman and Shadow Monica Valdez-Lupi. I will get to that later. So Warren Bennis, a scholar of leadership who's published many books on the ideas, argues that the four most important threats facing the world today are a nuclear or biological catastrophe, a worldwide epidemic, tribalism or assimilation, and especially flawed leadership over human institutions. Here that this fourth thing is important to solving the first three, and if that's not dealt with, then the other three will never be accomplished. Situational leadership, which we discussed in class, is a theory that states that effective leadership varies not only with the person or group that is being influenced, but also depends on the task, job, or function it's meant to accomplish. You can't just be static, you have to be able to adapt to challenges that interrupt or impede the goal that's trying to be accomplished. It's important to be able to adapt, and that's what situational leadership is all about. So we had many guest leaders come into the class and talk to us. Who I thought was very inspirational was Youth Build founder Dorothy Stoneman, who incorporates the idea of transformational leadership in her work with young people who are only looking to make a difference. She makes them feel that everything is possible, that they aren't limited by their circumstances or wealth or anything like that. She makes them feel like any problem is solvable. She gives them the tools they need to bypass these obstacles in ways of funding for housing, jobs, anything they need. She makes them feel that she is at hand and that they are resourceful enough to solve these problems on their own. She's willing to give them the help they need if it's needed. I also shadowed Boston Public Health Commission Executive Director Lupi for even more insight into leadership challenges and resilience. During lots of our meetings and conferences, she would take notes about what were the most important challenges. Even the smallest challenges were even taken note of. But the things that she could actually solve right there and the now were the things she focused on. Because she always said that there's a light and it's being obscured by clouds. But the light is always there, it's just obscured. It will be revealed later in time. You just have to make sure you keep driving for it. She always said she emerged stronger because of these challenges. She said that once it was over, she took something from it. And that was the most important thing about challenges. You gotta take something from it. Right, so for sum it all up, I'd like to say that the next generation of leaders may not have any challenges to deal with or need to maintain resilience, but it's all always good to keep these skills for a rainy day. You never know when something's going to crop up and ruin your perfect utopia. There's always something that crops up, so you always have to be prepared for it. Oh, sorry. The leaders that make the most of each failure and cherish their success like it may be their last are the ones that really grasp the reality that everything changes. Nothing is static. Everything is fluid. There's always going to be something that ruins things, but you have to be prepared for that. So the leaders of the future are going to need this if they're going to rise above the challenges at hand. They have to be ready for it, because challenges and maintaining resilience is what leadership is all about. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
I see.
So as you can see, my name is Sam O'Neill, and I'm going to be talking about effective leadership in chaotic situations. I would first like to thank everybody for coming to CSB today. I'd like to thank Kyrie and Mike for guiding us through the semester. I'd like to thank my family for coming today. So, as Americans, we find ourselves in an era of great socio-political upheaval. The historically normative ideas of what constitutes an ideal leader are shift, and accordingly, the ways in which we interact with our leadership are changing as well. With the election of Donald Trump, our 45th president, we watched as our country departed from its usual choice of executive. Regardless of your politics, you must agree that with the election of Donald Trump, America was launched into the unknown. As our leadership takes on new forms, the rest of us race to keep up. It is this shift in context that my presentation will examine, and how our leadership can effectively adapt to chaos. And by chaos, I simply mean a context in which variables are constantly and dramatically changing. The American military has long been a symbol of effective leadership. The military takes young men and women from all walks of life and shapes them into individuals of great mental and physical capacity. What's more, the American military has tested and proven methods for shaping leaders. Given that wartime combat can be considered the epitome of chaos, effective leadership strategies in the military should translate to a relatively non-military chaotic setting. Don Buchanan, who you see in the foreground on the left side of the screen, is a former Marine Corps infantry officer and published author. In an edition of the Harvard Business Review, he spoke as to the importance of open communication for leaders. Campbell spoke to the importance of the flow of information from leader to follower and vice versa. The U.S. Army Combined Arms Center teaches similar strategies of open communication to the leaders that it trains. This type of communication mitigates the impact of shifting variables as it allows everyone to not only be on the same page, but be aware of what's changing and what's staying the same. Another strategy the U.S. military imparts on its respective leaders, and that extends into the public service sector, is outreach. For example, Dorothy Stoneman, who you see there with Michelle Obama, is the founder and former CEO of Youth Build. She began her career by reaching out to disaffected youth in Harlem. Had Stoneman never done so, the challenges faced by the youth in Harlem may never have been exposed and subsequently addressed. The most difficult step in any relationship is the first one, reaching out a hand. In any scenario, it is the responsibility of the leadership to initiate discourse. If leadership fails to extend a hand, if it refuses to initiate this discourse, it is highly unlikely that the followership will. For example, imagine walking up to your boss and telling them everything that they do wrong in their job. Difficult to imagine for some people. But now imagine your boss walking up to you and asking for an open and honest critique of their leadership style. This type of leadership fosters a far more open environment, where problems can more easily be addressed. What's more, reaching out to the relevant communities allows the leader to better gauge the culture of that community, in turn allowing them to alter their style of leadership so it can be as efficient as possible. This is a concept coined by Maureen Malia Chadwick as the complex adaptive leadership model, the altering of one's leadership style to better fit the culture and followership. Yet another chaos-oriented leadership strategy the military teaches and that extends in the public service sector is triage. During this course, I had the privilege of shadowing the organizing director of the New York Coalition, Liza Ryan. As an organization that advocates for immigrants and refugees, MIRA has faced a chaotic shift in circumstance following the new administration's stance on immigration. Ryan spoke to the importance of triage or prioritization in moments of chaos. A difficult pill to swallow, the idea of actively ignoring some issues to focus on more important ones is incredibly important fix everything at once, it is almost inevitable that nothing will be fixed. But the ability to prioritize also reveals adaptivity for a leader. For example, if we look at leadership through the lens of chaos theory, a mathematical concept, we can come to recognize that leadership that deals most effectively with chaos is leadership that is able to observe and adapt to changing variables, which is essentially prioritization. So where to go from here? Leadership has become disconnected from its followership in America, evidenced by the fact that only a little over half of eligible voters participated in the 2016 election. Now more than ever, it is vital that leadership be a two-way street. Free, open, and substantive communication, which includes leadership actively involving followership and problem solving, is absolutely necessary. We are facing shifting variables into the socio-political climate, and if leadership fails or refuses to adapt to these shifts, we will all assuredly feel the consequences. Thank you.
Got this plan?
Hey everybody, my name is Pioneer, and I'd like to talk to you today about how teachers lead. When my colleagues and I were presented with this idea for choosing our own research and carrying it out, I immediately thought of the classroom as it's one of the most chaotic environments that I've ever known. Teachers are expected to provide structure and stability, and when that is done right, we get these amazing results that are students rising to the occasion. But often we also see that students are kind of blamed for this lack of productivity. I would argue that instead, the teachers need to provide clarity when they're giving out their expectations in class. So how do teachers go about organizing their class and getting through all this chaos? For the sake of this study, I looked at situational leadership as a framework for applying teaching tactics in the classroom. And I looked at the directive style, which is essentially a lecture, like I'm giving to you guys right now. Coaching style, which would be us talking, but with me leading the discussion. And a supportive style, which would be you guys talking amongst each other, with me butting in every once in a while and controlling the situation. So this framework helps to address the changing needs of students. And as their conduct strays from what we expect, as we give them expectations and sometimes they fail to meet them, we can bring them back to a directive style and tell them, hey guys, bring it in and stray again. And that can allow them to think critically and allow them to venture into their own thought. Similarly, teachers should use this conversation as a way to encourage students to do more than they're expected, to achieve more, and to be independent of the teacher themselves. This is where coaching and supporting leadership play a role rather than just directive. By communicating their expectations beforehand and enforcing them, when behavior gets out of hand, teachers have another framework to return back to the norm. And they can use directive style sparingly and encourage participation when conduct is appropriate. Situational leadership is the tool by which teachers can make all this come together and encourage this good behavior, apply their lessons, and include students in improving themselves. In my shadowing experience with Megan Murphy, a teacher at Native Preschool, I saw that situational leadership firsthand and was able to see how effective it was. Her goals for her class centered around mostly socialization and less around showing aptitude in academic subjects were very clearly met as students were expected to respond to the teacher's instructions through mostly directive and coaching styles of teaching. Ms. Murphy was clear with her expectations of her students, and in turn, students were able to know when they had done wrong, if that was referred back to. Usually, this cannot be the case when teachers assume that students already know what is expected of them based on their previous schooling or based on their parenting, and blame parents or other teachers for malconduct. Also, I saw that she was very concerned with switching between directive, coaching, and supportive leadership, regardless of whether she recognized it. There was a keen perspective on whether one should lecture to the class such as this, or allow them to talk, as that would allow for less unrest in the class. And the results were really positive, actually. There was very little rule breaking. Students were socializing very well and speaking with each other, greeting each other, and meeting all the expectations of their teachers and all the expectations of the class. And my takeaway from this is that teachers need to be clear, not only need to have expectations, but they need to show what is expected of their class, and more than that, they need to be versatile and change to the flow of the class. So if you see students twiddling their thumbs and not really paying attention, maybe it's time to stop lecturing and have them talk with you and bring it in back. So, what should I give as advice to any teachers here or anyone who's thinking of leading a group of unruly followers? I would say that you should focus on mixing directed leading, on bringing people together and having them focus on you. And you should allow them to stray from that as well. You should allow them to talk with each other and allow them to talk with you and communicate. And when your students inevitably do fail, you'll be there to bring them back. And if teachers want to be successful, they need to see themselves as leaders and their students as part of their team. Rather than focusing only on what they're teaching, they should be concerned about how they teach as well. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh, very well. Fine. Okay, cool. All right, so I first want to start out by thanking everyone that came today. I didn't have anyone to come for me today just because my family's in Chicago and a lot of people I work with have full-time jobs and, they're not as fortunate as a lot of people to take time off to come and sit with us today. So I just want to thank all of you just to be sitting with us, and I just really appreciate that because I didn't have that today. In addition to that, I do want to thank Ira Jackson and Michael Metzger for their support and dedication to the class. It really means a lot to me because, I don't know, just like, you can walk into a classroom and know that the teacher's like, oh, I'm this teacher just because I have to, but when I sat with them, it just seemed a lot different, so I just really do appreciate that. But I guess what I want to get to is leadership roles in a gender society. So what I really wanted to focus on was what it actually means to be a woman in a male-dominated society. So I have the captions, class-ceiling, wages, and promotions. I think you all know exactly what that means, regardless if you're male or female. But what I want to talk about was that women are less likely to receive a first critical promotion from manager. Women also get less access to the people, input, and opportunities that accelerate careers. As a result, the higher you look at companies, the fewer women you see. And I just wanted to give I'm sorry, I'm not tech savvy. Oh, there we go. I just wanted to give a couple of examples. So for every 100 women promoted to manager, 130 men are promoted. Promotion rates for women lag behind those of men, and the disparity is the largest at the first step up to manager. As a result, far fewer women end up in the path of leadership. Another good fact is women are negotiating as often as men, but
face pushback than they do. In addition to that, women get less access to senior leaders. Women and men both view sponsorship by senior leaders as essential for success. Yet women report fewer substantive interactions with senior leaders than their male counterparts. And this gap widens as women and men advance. So essentially, like, what that means is, like, because of, like, historical suppression and, you know, structural issues, women end up being more suppressed or feel that they can't express themselves. So I think that's a huge thing in understanding why women may be suppressed currently. So, what could it be? So, what could it be? What I related to is, hang on, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just like so crazy nervous. So, essentially that not only does it affect women, but it does with society as a whole. So, essentially that I have like statistics that says that 53.2% of families headed by non-white women are, ignore that, I'm following this, but it's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to read it. Discrimination against women in employment not only affects women, but can have a major impact on economics and well-being, and has been directly correlated to a higher percentage of poverty within the nation. 61% of the nation's poor children live in families headed by women. A comparison on the basis of sex and race of Americans living in poverty shows that 53.2% of the families are headed by non-white women, 25.2% of the families by white men, and the statistics show that they're pertinent to change the way the country's views sex discrimination because of the major impacts it has on females, future generations, and the wealth of country and nation. Literature. So, I thought it was really interesting. So, a lot of the literature that I did read talked about, like, that women can't find their voice. For me, I read that to a certain extent, but I think a lot of it is structural. And what kind of like made me like disagree with like women finding voice, but also being strong is the women that I do follow for my leadership follow. So Kristen Kelly was one of the first person, or the only person I did follow, and she was really inspirational for the fact that she's tried so hard to get women to work together and to find new programs to create equal opportunities. And then the one person that I really had a direct connection with, and I think that we've all spoken about thus far within our presentations, was Dorothy Stoneman. And I think she speaks a lot to women's values. So I guess like what I took away from everything that I think we've learned thus far in like our class and just like, you know, like really strong women is that regardless of like all of our differences, that stands out most to me because, you know, I haven't always had like a passive life, but, you know, I'm very grateful for what I have, but that if we do come together, as simple as it sounds, like, we can make something like so much stronger than our own selves, and I think that's really, really important to progression, and
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming to our final presentation for our honors course on becoming a leader. My name is Nasha Walton. I'm a junior nursing student here at UMass, and I'd like to talk to you all about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. How does hierarchical leadership impact patient care? As you can probably imply by my major, I'm very passionate about healthcare, and especially in today's climate with healthcare reform, practitioner shortages, and the lack of fundamental research on this topic. I chose to explore the depth at which a leadership structure found predominantly within healthcare affects the patients it supports. I'd like to start off with a quote that I feel embodies the definition of hierarchical leadership. Ultimately, leadership is not about glorious-flowing acts. It's about keeping your team focused on a goal and motivated to do their best to achieve it, especially when the stakes are high and the consequences really matter. It is about laying the groundwork for others' success and then standing back and letting them shine. In healthcare, sometimes the stakes can be very high, and the consequences of decisions made by leaders matter to both their patients as well as their patients' families. It is the responsibility of healthcare leaders to organize their teams in a manner that allows for everyone involved to be motivated towards being their best and giving their best to their patients. This effort is not put forward so that the leader may shine or be praised for their actions, but so that everyone involved can take equal pride in knowing that all was done to ensure the patient's health. So how does this pertain to hierarchical leadership? Hierarchical leadership in healthcare exists when one holds a position of leadership, yet is still subordinate to another governing body. In healthcare, both nurses and physicians can hold positions of leadership, yet for nursing leadership, this governing body is physician leadership. The structure of this leadership style, as you can see in the pyramid, is designed to foster collaboration and reduce the risk that those in higher-ranking positions might abuse their leadership power. At its core, healthcare is a business. But unlike J.Crew or Apple, the risk of the business failing or performing poorly has severe consequences that impact the lives and livelihoods of individuals, communities, and the world at large. During this course, I was able to examine some of the business aspects of healthcare and was more than delighted to find shifts in business models that have adapted to fit modern society. One such adaptation included physician-led accountable care, where practitioners are paid for the quality of care that they deliver. And in theory, this is a wonderful model because it makes them accountable for the care that they are administering. But this model also requires appropriate staffing to be present in order to administer the quality care. For the past 17 years, here in Massachusetts, nurses have been lobbying to address the increasing shortage of healthcare staff by filing bills such as the Safe Staffing Bill or the Patient Safety Act that would bring the focus back to the quality of care and negate practices that promote a quantity of care or fee-for-service model. In this course, I was also afforded the opportunity to witness firsthand how hierarchical leadership intersects the business and interpersonal aspects of healthcare to conclude whether or not this leadership style is making a positive impact on patient health outcomes despite the current state of staffing. I chose to do my leadership shadow, a clinical nurse leader named Rachel Slate-Simon. She holds a master's degree in nursing leadership and works on a telemetry floor at Brigham and Women's Hospital here in Boston. I also did my clinical rotation at Brigham and Women's this semester, so I got to observe her the entire semester in multiple contexts. But during this time, I gathered data throughout a number of components of observational hours with Rachel as she interacted with physician leaders and student leaders to coordinate patient care. Observations made during these hours allowed me to track both emerging themes in hierarchical leadership and the timeline for patient care and discharges from the unit. At the end of each clinical shift, the nursing students would come together with Rachel for post-conference, where we would discuss the patient's conditions and whether or not they were being discharged from the unit. I then quantified whether the patient discharges were being, if they were actually being implemented and whether their health status was improving as a proxy measurement to see if the leadership style was impacting patient care. The third component of the leadership shadow included an exit interview that I had with Rachel that provided further insight on the themes and events observed. Leadership styles were also identified during the analysis of all data to better understand whether there were any significant differences in leadership approaches amongst nurses and diagnoses dictated on the handoff notes that were given to the morning patients, it was apparent that the patient's relative health status and discharge from the units were being improved. Another example I used for data collection during my shadow was when a rapid response was called on a patient that I was cared for. Once the response was called, a number of nursing and medical staff members rushed into the room to begin rescue care for the patient. And in this case, hierarchical leadership was at the forefront of care, as the physician began dictating orders for each staff member to implement. Yet midway through the rapid response, he stopped and turned to Rachel to ask for her input on how they should proceed with the care. In this instance, patient care was enhanced due to hierarchical leadership, as both nursing and physician leadership collaborated to implement a plan of care that better addressed the patient's specific needs. So as a result of my clinical shadow, literary review, and analysis of post-conference responses, I was able to conclude that healthcare is transforming the previous connotations associated with hierarchical leadership, and has created a leadership style that is more collaborative and positively impacts patient care and patient health outcomes. My hope is that institutions will be able to utilize this finding with better training and emphasis on the importance of hierarchical care.
Hi everyone, my name is Mohamed Al-Baiti and I am from the United Arab Emirates and I am happy to be here to present about transformation leadership. Before I begin, I would like to thank Ira and Mike and all my classmates for a great semester. So this is my third year in the United States. I received a scholarship from Abu Dhabi Police Department to study here in Boston. Upon completion of my studies, I returned back to the United Arab Emirates and hopefully work with the Abu Dhabi Police Force. Okay. So, this is a picture of the police commissioner with me. I was expecting him to be here actually while I'm presenting, but it's fine. So it's well known that the United States needs the work of policing. In fact, when I was shadowing Deputy Superintendent Con Laden, he told me that he had met several members of the Abu Dhabi police here in Boston when they came to learn more about policing. I wanted to learn more about transformation leadership. Often in the field of leadership, there seems to be a lot of focus on different styles and approaches, such as charismatic leadership, authentic leadership, and transformation leadership. Transformation leadership is a type of leadership that brings about change in both social systems and individuals. Often this type of leadership creates leaders out of followers. As I learned that transformation leadership is associated with change, I wanted to learn more about the specific approach to leadership and apply my learning to the Abu Dhabi Police Department. I have a vision for the Abu Dhabi Police Force where all police officers are able to use the most appropriate approach or style of leadership. As we are all well aware, leadership can be challenging as there are numerous approaches to leadership. I have come to learn that there are many styles of leadership, each of which is appropriate to different situations. According to the World Economic Forum, Abu Dhabi is the safest city on the planet right now. However, Abu Dhabi is seeing many changes on the external level, such as larger population and youth threats, ranging from drugs to ISIS. The future state for the Abu Dhabi Police Department is where the leaders choose the most effective approach to leadership in a context of change. It is based on these external changes that the police department needs to focus on internal changes. Internal changes that the police department makes must, similar to the Boston Police Department, be based on ideas such as continuous improvement. The changes to the Abu Dhabi Police Department can bring free sources of data, the literature review, the guest leaders, and shadowing Deputy Superintendent Conley have informed my learning on transformation leadership. As previously mentioned, there is often focus on a specific type of leadership. Charismatic leadership has been promoted as an effective form of leadership. Many leaders have attempted to act more like a charismatic leader. However, as Bryman, Stevens, and Campbell found in their qualitative research, charisma is less prominent than some might assume in terms of what makes a leader effective. In fact, additional research by Karen, Handy, and Can find that police mostly prefer transformation leadership. From the speakers in the class, and particularly Deborah Jackson, we learned that change is hard. Change is a difficult aspect of any organization. In fact, many people resist change, and change initiatives can fail. The Abu Dhabi Police Department is no different. A future state of the Abu Dhabi Police Department in terms of change and leadership is where leaders are able to use the best approach to facilitate change, such as transformation leadership. It is hoped that the Abu Dhabi Police Department becomes one that embraces change. A challenge in leadership is that often leaders adopt a certain style. As mentioned, there often seems to be focus on certain approach or style to leadership, such as charismatic and authentic. What I learned from Deputy Superintendent Conley is the importance of flexibility in leadership. I imagine the future of the Abu Dhabi Police Department, one where people are led by transformation leaders, when and where it's appropriate. It is my hope that leaders see the need to be flexible with the manner in which they lead. The police department of Abu Dhabi and the rest of the world will be served effectively in using transformation and leadership to address the many changes that they are facing on internal and external levels. It is embracing change, not resisting it, that is often a result of transformation leadership. It is my goal to see leaders in the police focus on changes and this leadership style, while also being flexible to ensure that organizational goals are achieved. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Federico Pinallo, and I'm going to present about relationships in leadership. And especially I'll focus on the importance of this for businesses today. So, I believe that the main characteristic of relationship, of leadership, is the ability to create and maintain strong relationships. And this holds true, especially today, because businesses offer more complex tasks, and to solve those tasks, we need groups and teams, and that's when relationships are very important. So how are relationships studied and acknowledged? Leaders, first of all, today consider those relationships fundamental, and it's very important for a leader to have a strong network of relationships. And also, I was able to observe from my studies that most of the leadership studies do not give enough importance to relationships. They all cover relationships, but they don't give it enough credit. So, research review. I was able to find this video from Oxford Leadership where Mari Vergara discusses her job. Her company works on relationships in companies, and especially they focus on qualities of those relationships. And she was able to observe that the quality of those relationships dictates how the companies are effective. And also, this is related to the third source from Meng Xi, which was able to observe in China from 20 companies. All of them adopted a CEO relationship-focused behavior. So the CEO was directly cooperating with all the workers, and this boosted all of the company's performances. And also, as I was saying, relationships are in every single leadership team. perspective, which gave me the idea that all of the other leadership theories can be studied using an approach that focuses on relationships. I was lucky enough to shadow Jay Cheskov, which is the executive director of the MBR, or the Massachusetts Business Roundtable, and Chris Keeley, which is the deputy director of the MBR. I was able to shadow them for one day, and the main thing that I was able to observe is that relationships are very important for them. I was also able to interview them, and both of them told me explicitly that relationships are very important. Especially Mr. Cheskov said that they're a key point because they open a lot of possibilities for him. And Mr. Keeley, on our conversation, we focused more on the quality of the relationships, but he also thought that relationships are fundamental, and they open a lot of possibilities for him. Last but not least, my call to action is that I believe that relationships are related to most of the leadership theories, and there should be a study that analyzes relationships, every single theory, and this should be one of the fundamentals of leadership when you start studying leadership as we did in class. And I believe this chapter should contain insights from leaders today and also from leaders in history. Thank you, and I hope everyone has a tough enough time.
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. So my name is Timothy Musoke, and I'm a senior here studying biochemistry. And it gives us great pleasure, it gives me great pleasure to join my classmates in thanking Aaron Jackson and Mike Metzger for a wonderful semester. We've truly learned so much, so thank you. So one of the things that has been something of a really topic of much interest to me is the idea of visionary leadership and how rhetoric is used to inspire followers into catching into a vision. So in thinking about rhetoric is a way to effectively communicate to followers, and that takes into account the place, the time, and the kinds of people with whom a leader is communicating. And so one of the common perceptions of visionary leaders who use really strong rhetoric are Sir Winston Churchill and President John F. Kennedy. So the idea that's presented by these leaders is one of grandeur and magnificence. So if you listen to their speeches, it's usually grand speeches, and it's this whole ignite the crowd and inspire the vision, which is pretty interesting. And the thing about people like Churchill, so Winston Churchill believed in the power of language, and he believed that words were a critical tool in inspiring followers. So he actually believed in the romantic power of language, which is interesting. And he actually spent hours writing his speeches. And John F. Kennedy chose the right words at the right moment, and this helped him to inspire his followers into different strategies, into different visions. So in thinking about that, the literature says that there's different strategies that these visionary leaders use in terms of what kind of rhetoric that they use. And one of the things that's emphasized is the idea of breaking walls and boundaries between leaders and followers. So many of the visionary leaders that have been studied in the past are those who understand the motivations of their followers. So for example, understanding motivations such as these cute children who everyone probably wants to spend time with, or understanding what their followers fear, such as a scared little baby. And so if leaders can understand what motivates or what scares their followers, then they can be able to challenge conventions, and in that way they can change a system by inspiring their followers, once they understand what motivates or what scares or what drives their followers. Now, additionally, one of my favorite leaders, President Barack Obama, believed in this, or I guess he led, or his speeches and his rhetoric were always filled with passion and authenticity. So he believed in the idea of bringing people together and that is reflected in his speeches. So he believed in the whole idea of unity and togetherness, and well, most of his speeches had this, we versus this, I can help you do this, more like we can do this as a team, which is, the popular yes we can slogan. And then people like Steve Jobs believed in, passion of what kind of product they were giving out to people. So when he was, describing the iPhone, or when he was launching the iPhone, he always, described it with so much passion. And once a leader is passionate about what they're speaking to their followers, then the followers can catch on to the vision because they can see the leader is inspired and they can be inspired themselves. So I was fortunate enough to co-host President Gabriel Jackson with my classmate Elijah. And one of the things that I learned from President Jackson is that a leader must be able to keep things in perspective. So not everything that appears big is big. There's always ways around it, and understanding and dealing with things at a granular level helps a leader to not get stressed out, and this helps them to inspire their followers because their followers can see that they are keeping things in perspective. Additionally, the chair of the Boston City Council, Michelle Wu, shared with us the role of being humble enough to listen to your followers as a leader, and then being authentic to your value system, and being thankful to your team as ways to build this relationship between you and, as a leader, between you and your followers. And in this way, it makes it easier for you to inspire them. So, I guess as a take-home message, what I've learned most is that as a leader, you need to understand your followers at the grassroots level. So you need to understand who you're leading and what their motivations are, what drives them, what their value system is. And once this is understood, you can build your rhetoric around this value system. And once you inspire followers to catch into this strong vision, once that's established, like this tree with very strong, wide roots, then in that way, whatever force that comes to shake them, it can't really shake this value system. And once you establish this really strong vision, then it's harder for your followers to be developed with the vision. So thank you all for listening.